Good evening and welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Rob.
And I'm Bob.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. We've all gathered in this fabulous theater to celebrate the year in cinema, as only your neighborhood video store could.
Now, on our usual episodes of the Rewind Video podcast, we choose 6 movies to stock our staff recommendation shelf that all stick to a single theme. But we thought it might be interesting to try something a little different for our last episode of the year.
So instead of a staff recommendation shelf, we'd like to welcome you to our first annual awards show, the 2024 Rewindies.
That's right, we're going to hand out some accolades tonight to recognize this year's outstanding movies and the positive trends in the art and business of film.
And some of the not-so-positive trends.
That's true, Rob. The movie industry has seen a lot of ups and downs in 2024, just like your performance behind the register.
Hey, at least the movies I recommend get rented once in a while.
It's not my fault our customers don't appreciate cannibalistic body horror.
Hey, Bob, let's not start blaming our customers for having bad taste. As their local video store clerks, maybe we should take some responsibility for that.
Not until after I get my $1 an hour raise.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Sometimes it's just nice to dream.
Well, these awards aren't going to hand themselves out. Should we get down to business?
Well, the store closes at 10, and I wasn't planning on staying late.
What an honor it will be for the recipients of these beautiful VHS-shaped trophies.
Anyone in Hollywood would be proud to take one home.
Bob, would you like to get us started by handing out the first 2024 Rewinding?
I would love to, Rob. So for my first Rewindy, I thought I'd highlight a trend that I picked up on this year that seems to only be picking up steam, and I'm frankly a little surprised looking back at how popular this became. So I'm talking, of course, about novelty popcorn buckets in theaters. So my first Rewindy is going to all of the novelty popcorn buckets that you could get when visiting the theater to see a modern blockbuster.
Just for the idea of the modern novelty popcorn bucket.
Yeah. I mean, obviously people are not going to movies as often as they had been in the past. Whatever. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. We know that streaming plays a role and the release windows are shorter than ever.
Not a lot of people are positing that maybe popcorn buckets have something to do with that.
Well, you know, people love to collect things, and somehow these are collector's items. You know, there were quite a few this year. Dune 2 had a questionable popcorn bucket. It was like the sandworm, and you had to stick your hand into the orifice.
Oh, your hand.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't blame you because they did a whole Saturday Night Live skit about it. And then following that, Deadpool and Wolverine did one that really leaned into just how obscene this could be.
It was,
yeah. It was like Wolverine's head, and you had to stick your hand into his mouth, and it was like a leathery tongue that you had to interact with.
No thanks.
Yeah. So,
but you're for that. You're giving it an award.
I am. I'm giving it an award because I think it takes some creativity for the movie industry to come up with something new that we haven't seen before, and it's totally optional. You know, you can still go buy your regular popcorn and snacks, sneak something in if you want.
Yeah.
But for those who want something special to commemorate the movie that they've seen, there are some interesting novelty popcorn buckets that were made available. And it's only going to continue. You know, Tom Cruise aligned with, I think, AMC for the release of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning next year so that AMC had exclusive rights on a novelty popcorn bucket to for that film.
That's fantastic. So the novelty merchandise of the year is the the popcorn bucket.
I just think it's a fun addition to movie culture.
I can't disagree with you.
Okay. Did you buy any?
No.
You don't own any novelty
I actually
popcorn?
don't eat popcorn at the movies.
Really?
Yeah, not usually, no.
You know,
Am I allowed to say that at the awards show?
I think you can. Yeah, I see
In front
a lot
of
of
all these people.
A lot of them are eating popcorn in what look to be
and we sell a lot of
standard
popcorn
buckets.
at the store.
We do.
A lot of people out here are popcorn customers.
Maybe what we need at Rewind Video is a novelty popcorn bucket of our own.
That needs to happen.
It should.
You're right.
Yeah. No, I when I go
don't
to
want
the
to fall behind.
when I go to the theater, I like to buy myself a drink, a small popcorn if I'm going to buy a snack, and then in that small popcorn, I mix some Reese's Pieces.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I am.
You like to get fancy with
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And so I'm giving my first Rewindy to novelty popcorn buckets in 2024 and the bright future they have. Let's give it up for novelty popcorn buckets.
Okay. Now I'd like to hand out an award that recognizes that the movie-going experience can sometimes be more than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
This is the award for Best Excuse for Eating a Gummy Before the Movie Starts.
Do you need an excuse?
Well,
Isn't
no.
going to the movies enough of an excuse?
Yeah, you don't need an excuse. I am a fan of chemical enhancement of my movies, even if that's not for everybody. I understand. It's better for some movies than it is for others. And of all the movies that I saw this year, the best excuse for eating a gummy before the movie starts is Madam Web.
Madam Web's not going to be collecting a lot of awards this year.
No,
so I'm
probably
glad
not.
that the film is getting something.
It's not a good movie. It's not even close. But in a way, that's the fascinating part to me. It's simultaneously an absolute disaster in filmmaking, and also it seems to be kind of a psychological, I don't know, some sort of performance art experiment in bad movies at the same time. So it's not a movie I liked. But it's also a movie that I've had a hard time not thinking about it since I saw it.
Really? Are you going to go back to it?
I definitely will at one point.
So definitely a 3-star movie.
It's definitely a 3-star movie. Even though it is an absolute piece of shit, it is so fascinating. And I think the best way to experience it is to take some weed gummies that are just like a little bit too strong for you to handle, and and just it'll turn off some parts of your brains and turn on other parts of your brain. And I don't know. I think in that way, Madam Web can start to make a little bit of sense and maybe help you figure out the world.
I mean, if there's a reason to see Madam Web, I can understand that this would be the incentive that some need in order to give a shot. Now, for those who aren't familiar, this is part of the Sony kind of side Marvel universe where not necessarily connected to the official MCU, but Sony still owns the rights to a lot of like tangential characters.
Which makes all these movies very awkward and weird.
Yeah.
There's no connection to any Spider-Man things. Like, I don't know the Madam Web character. I don't think anyone really did.
Right.
I don't know anything about it after watching the movie. I don't understand anything that's going on in Madam Web. But I'm giving it the award for take a lot of weed gummies before you watch it.
What I find fascinating is that you, a man who generally avoids comic book movies altogether, chose one of the worst, not even just this year, but in recent memory, to watch in 2024.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. I find this more interesting than most of the stuff that Marvel's putting out, for instance.
Really?
That's all that stuff's sort of a formula. It's like it's just episodic.
Yeah.
It's episodic. It's very much like a TV show with 2.5 hour long episodes. And I don't know, those movies don't interest me all that much. This interests me on like a human level. Like, how did this happen? Like, I don't know, like have you seen this?
No.
It is.
I have some gummies at home.
It is so bad. It's almost impossible to think that they accidentally made it that bad. Right? It almost seems like it has to be on purpose, but also it can't be on purpose because of the ways that it's bad. And so I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a fun watch.
Okay.
But I think like eating a handful of gummies, it might be a fun watch.
All right. And there's some decent star power here. Like Dakota Johnson's in it, Sydney Sweeney's
and
in it.
Dakota Johnson
Amy
does
Adams.
nothing. she barely raises her eyebrows. Like she does nothing she's trying to get out of the movie during the movie. It is a fascinating film on every level. Performances, editing. There's an ADR voice in this movie that is just like mind-boggling. That like there's no way they could have thought this would have seemed like it's real. So yeah, that's the award for best excuse for eating a gummy before the movie. Goes to Madam Web.
All right. Well, congratulations, Madam Web. All right. Well, hard to follow that one up, but I've got another Rewindy here, and it deserves to go to a recipient. And for my second Rewindy of 2024, I'm going back to the theater chains.
Okay.
Specifically AMC.
Oh.
And I want to give them credit for upholding theater etiquette. And so what I'm referring to is their stance on the silence is golden rule when it comes to seeing a movie, specifically with the release of Wicked. So, Wicked, people wanted to sing. People were singing.
Yes.
And the fine people at AMC were like, no. That's not why people bought tickets. Not to hear other folks in neighboring seats belting out these songs. It's to hear the stars on the screen singing to the soundtrack of Wicked.
I don't know how I feel about this. I think I agree with you.
Okay.
But I also, like, when that Taylor Swift movie came out a few months ago and people were, like, dancing and singing and stuff, I was like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. So, like, is that a different thing because it's a concert movie?
Yes.
Okay. I think, yeah, you're probably right.
I get it. With the Taylor Swift thing, sure. You're not there to necessarily see something unexpected. I mean, sure, there are people that are going to go to that didn't get to see Taylor Swift in concert. But, you know the lyrics of the songs. You're watching a concert happen. You sing along at concerts. Musicals, specifically musicals that have been adapted to film, not a new concept. People had never sung along in theaters prior to the Taylor Swift movie being released. And because that
I don't
came
know if
out,
that's necessarily true.
Maybe not necessarily. It's certainly not as much as widespread. Not as widespread as was happening in the first week or two of Wicked. And to their credit, AMC does have some showings where they invite people to sing. You can choose a showing where it's like, everybody's going to sing here. You can be one of the idiots who does it with them.
But that sounds kind of fun, actually.
Yeah. For all of the other shows, they are kicking you out if you start singing. And I just think that's terrific.
I think that's a good policy. Here's what I'll say about that.
Yes.
I think people shutting up and turning their phones off and not talking, generally, that's a good policy to have. I don't know I haven't seen a lot of evidence that they're enforcing any policy.
Right.
And so you should not allow people to sing in the theater and stuff, but are they actually going to enforce it?
That's a good question. I haven't been to the theater to see Wicked, and I don't know. I have to believe that if they're taking a public stance on this, there's got to be somebody, if not in the theater, who's looking out for bad singers, but ready to kick people out.
If you're good, you can stay.
Yeah, right. Maybe they're willing to kick you out if somebody comes out of the theater and is like, this idiot over here is singing.
Yeah.
And to that I say, good job, AMC.
Yeah.
Because theater etiquette has gone downhill so much.
It's always been going
years.
Downhill. It's always, and it keeps getting worse. It's always been getting worse.
Yeah.
I don't mind when people are talking at the movie a little bit. That's fine. If someone's like, no, that, or don't go in there, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when people are talking about something else, you can tell people are just having a conversation about something that has nothing to do with that movie.
Yeah.
That fucking bothers me to no end.
Oh, yeah.
Or they're on their phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Singing, I don't know. I guess if it was really loud, I wouldn't like it, but I don't know. I don't know how much it would bother me.
Well, I don't have a deep relationship with Wicked, which is why I'm not going to the theater to see it. But if there was a musical out there that I was excited to see, I would probably want to be in the camp of those who just want to hear the performers on the screen.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm awarding my second Rewindy to AMC for looking out for guys like me. Good job, AMC. This Rewindy is yours.
Okay. The next Rewindy that I'd like to hand out is for the best reason to sing and dance in the movie theater.
I wonder what this is going to.
Long
legs.
I love I love music in movies.
Okay.
Even if I don't necessarily love musicals.
Yeah.
And I particularly like musical performance.
Yeah.
When you see that. And the movie that I think this year is the best reason to sing and dance in the movie theater in 2024 is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Because it stars, among others, Salika Night Shyamalan as Lady Raven.
Yeah.
Who is a pop star giving a concert that kind of acts as a trap for the local serial killer.
Yeah.
And Salika Night Shyamalan does the actual singing for Lady Raven, and she even put out an album as this character. And I would say the movie dedicates probably at least like 10 minutes to her just like putting on a stage performance as Lady Raven. Yeah. And it's not really my style of music, I'll be honest.
No.
But I enjoy this stuff in a movie. And more of this, please, is what I'll say.
Interesting. Okay. So
more musical performance in a movie. I want more live concerts or whatever in movies that are not concert films or musicals.
So I have a lot of thoughts on this. First, this is one of two thriller/horror movies this year that's centered around a pop star who got into some hijinks. The second was Smile 2 with the character of Sky Riley, who is another pop star. And I'm curious, did you see that?
No.
Okay. There's less musical performance in that, which is appropriate for me because in Trap, I felt like it was way too much.
I disagree.
Now, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter actually is trying to propel a musical career, and these are actually her songs.
Yeah.
And there are several scenes in the movie, not just the one at the concert, but another one later on where she's sitting at a piano in a house, and she sings like an entire song.
Yeah.
And this is all why we're giving the rewind now. Okay.
Yeah. There's like 3 entire songs, I think.
Yeah. And I felt like that distracted me from the movie because I saw the movie and I was wanting the thriller, and every time the music interrupted and kept interrupting, I was like, can we please get back to the movie?
Here's the thing about Trap. That movie is exceptionally stupid.
Yes,
and so I think you just need to like fill up some time with the song. You know, like I don't think you need more time with the story and the plot because that would just make it worse. You know, I think, and again, like if you don't like the music, I don't necessarily like the music, but I liked it being in the movie.
Okay.
So if it's like really turning you off, I understand why you're saying that. But at the same time, like I think I don't know, like to me, it gave the movie a pace that made more sense.
Well, given that you are awarding this Rewindy to Trap for being the best excuse to, what is it, sing and dance in the movies?
At the movie theater.
Okay.
Really, I'm just trolling your last topic.
Right, I was going to say.
Because really, it's like the best musical performance.
Yeah. I get that. I would like to watch this with you in hopes that you might sing and dance to Lady Raven.
I won't be doing that. But if you were the type of person to do that,
sure.
There weren't a lot of options out there.
No,
I guess Smile 2 maybe had some, but I can't. No other movie that I saw this year offered a musical performance.
Well, I can't remember a movie that introduced a musical performance like this in quite a while. I mean, because this is very present in Trap.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Trap is the 2024 winner of the best reason to sing and dance in the movie theater.
Well done, Trap. All right. Well, you opened the door to movies that are designed to thrill you and scare you maybe, perhaps also inspire you to sing and dance.
Yes.
But I'm going to focus on the thriller component of where we're headed with this evening's award show. And for my third Rewindy of 2024, I'm going to present this to the entire horror genre.
Oh, wow.
All of the movies that fit within the horror genre, yes.
Wow, by the time this show's over, almost the entire movie industry will have a Rewindy.
Well, that's the idea. They're keeping us in business.
Yes. We're keeping them in business.
That's true. So let me explain why I'm doing this. We are in the golden age of horror. There's never been a better time to be a fan of the genre. And in a year when you look at the highest grossing movies, and I think as of late December, all of the top 10 are sequels or reboots in some capacity of existing properties. Where you don't find that happening is in the horror genre. Mm-hmm. And I want to give a specific nod to the fact that the horror genre is not stuck in a style of scaring people. There was a while where we were getting a bunch of A24 ambient horror movies that were just kind of like creepy and slow-paced, and
it's trauma.
Yeah. And that's fine. That deserves a place in the genre. But then this year, there were also a lot of horror movies that said, fuck that. We're here to scare you, and we're going to try to scare the literal pants off you. So, I'm gonna rattle off a couple of the films that highlight the year in horror. We've got The Substance, of course. We've covered it on the podcast. Alien Romulus, bringing the Alien franchise back to the horror genre. Trap. Late Night with the Devil, Long Legs, Terrifier 3, Oddity. Oddity was a great one. I'd like to call that one out specifically because it leaned into jump scares. It was weird, and it was absolutely setting out from the get-go to just scare you, frighten you, nice. and make you afraid. And I love that. So I know that the horror genre is not for everybody, but if you like it, now's the time to dive in.
There's so many interesting things happening in horror that are not happening in any other genre.
Yeah.
In movies. Like comedies, like mid-level comedies hardly get made. Mid-level adult thrillers, never get made. Like when was no, very rare at least.
Comedies are going straight to Netflix.
Yeah.
And they're not even very good.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think comedies are, it's a weird moment for comedies because, kids are getting their comedy on TikTok and YouTube. I just hate to say it like a boomer, but like that's where the kids are getting their comedy.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, by the time you make a movie, it takes 2 years and it's like, is this stuff even funny anymore?
Right.
And so comedies have to be different now than they used to be. And also because comedies used to be huge in the theater. Like people would go with their friends and you go to a packed theater and it would be so much more funny than it would be than you just watch it at home. It's a different experience. That doesn't exist as much anymore. Well,
it's interesting you bring up comedy because comedy, I think, has a lot in common with horror. And it's the reason I like horror so much because you can't just decide to laugh at something. Something needs to make you laugh. And I love the experience of being in a packed theater and laughing alongside everybody who's in the seats around me. And horror does something similar for me where it's like I can't make myself frightened. So I'm seeking out that experience of being scared. And, for as difficult a time as the theater chains are having bringing people into theaters, the one genre that is sidestepping the downturn is horror. People are still going to the theater to see horror, and I love that.
Because there's always like 10 horror movies a year that make like $25 million or more,
Yeah.
Which like doesn't sound like a ton of money, but like these movies don't cost a lot.
They don't.
And I think speaking of comedy, maybe that's what these studios should figure out. Because like I think what studios think, it's like, oh, it's a comedy. It's got to have Paul Rudd and
Seth Rogen
and whoever and Tina Fey or whatever, and it has to cost $45 million or whatever.
Yeah. What
they should be doing is they should be doing what horror is doing. Is like let's just like pay for a bunch of like $400,000 comedies and see what happens. And like, that's what horror does. Now you get 10 to 15 horror movies a year that are like pretty good.
Yeah.
And they don't cost anything. And they show up on Shudder.
Yes.
You know?
Which is great. It's great that we have a streaming service devoted to the genre and they're doing great things, but you know, it's nice to see that there's still a role for horror at the box office. And for that, I want to give my current Rewindy to the genre and say, thank you for doing what you do. Keep doing it.
Here's to horror.
Here's to horror.
Okay. Now it's time to hand out the Rewindy for Premise of the Year.
This is an exciting Rewindy.
Some movies are built around stories and characters, locations, or themes.
Yes.
But sometimes a movie's entire existence can be justified by its premise alone. The core idea that makes you say, I need to see that movie.
This is the elevator pitch that you're like,
exactly.
Fuck yeah, greenlit.
Make it. The success of this movie depends entirely on how well executed the premise is.
Okay. And
the winner of the Premise of the Year is Late Night with the Devil.
Okay.
It's this. You mentioned this earlier. It's the story of a 70s late night talk show that essentially gets possessed by the devil. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
And it's made out of backstage footage and supposedly unaired show footage.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit mockumentary. It's a little bit found footage. But for me, this movie came down to how well did it live up to its premise, and it did.
Yeah.
And for that, I think it is the Premise of the Year.
I have a hard time arguing with you. I think that for the same reason I just mentioned, the horror genre is bringing some interesting ideas to the table, and this is absolutely one of them. I was excited about this. It had great cast, and yeah, it's an interesting, thought-provoking premise.
Yeah, it didn't like hew too closely to the form that it was going for, because it's kind of unclear, like, is this footage that you found? Because some of it's like stuff that they would never have. And so I feel like they committed to this form of the found footage / unaired TV show that they couldn't quite live up to it.
Yeah.
But the premise was so strong that it didn't matter. You know?
Yeah.
There were some definite parts of this movie where you're like, I don't know if this totally works. But because they're like, at the end of it, you're like, yeah, it was a TV show possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
I was in. I was totally bought in.
Now, I'm looking down at the front row, and I see Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman in their tuxedos. Hi, guys. Yes. Great job with Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes. Interesting premise. Not quite up to the level of Late Night.
I got to say, I mean, I don't know why this isn't the kind of awards show that you're going to be getting a lot of awards, guys. I'm sorry.
Sorry, fellas.
I'm sorry. Yeah. The 2024 Rewindy for Premise of the Year goes to Late Night with the Devil.
Bravo. All right, well, that's a tough one to follow up. But I'm going to try to with my next Rewindy. This is my fourth Rewindy, and I'm sticking with trends. I did just acknowledge the great year that horror is having. I'm going to pivot a little bit and give a Rewindy to, I don't even know who the recipient is for this, perhaps studio executives.
Okay.
But what I'd like to call attention to is the lack of comic book and Star Wars films that we got in 2024. Now, we've been binging on these for a while. They've been coming out in droves. Marvel going ham at the box office, DC, and then Star Wars with Disney's been bringing those out for a while. But it definitely seemed, perhaps last year and the year before, that audiences were like, enough. We're not feeling this the way we were. And we've turned the corner, and now there just aren't quite as many. I'm not saying that they're gone, but there aren't as many as we had in the past. And I like that.
I think next year things might change a bit.
Perhaps. Perhaps. But who knows? With this Rewindy, maybe the executives are going to be like, well, how do we get back up on the stage again?
By not releasing comic book movies.
Let's take this $200 million movie that we've made. just shelve it for a little while, or maybe just send it right out to streaming services. And I don't know. I needed a break, and I even liked the MCU and what it was doing. I always see those movies, but it got a little bit tiresome.
I think they got up their own ass a little bit. I don't think they'd even like Star Wars. They had no idea what they were trying to make. They didn't know what stories they were telling. I still don't know what stories they were trying to like. It was just a complete disaster.
Well, you've implored our listeners to not even ever watch the most recent
The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah,
don't waste your time. It's just garbage, and like. What are they even trying to do with Star Wars? And so I think they needed to take like a lot of time off and be like, what are we trying to do here?
Long look in the mirror. Yeah.
Disney spent billions of dollars on that Star Wars property and then started making movies without a plan. They're just like, just make them.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's make a trilogy.
Yes.
that aren't connected to each other. It was bizarre. And so that needed some time off. They made some really bizarre choices with some of the Marvel movies. I think they needed to take some time off. DC is constantly resetting itself. Like, but then again, we got Madam Web, so it wasn't a complete wasteland.
We did get Madam Web, and we did get Deadpool and Wolverine, which I enjoyed. I found it funny, but yeah, one a year is plenty for me.
I think that's what they should do. I think. When the Star Wars, especially, when those new movies started coming out, they were like, hey, okay, cool. Like every 2 years, we're going to do this movie, and then maybe we'll sprinkle in, a side story or whatever. And they
like
just
solo or something.
They completely lost the plot with that. They were like, no, we'll do like this in 12 TV shows. And it's just like, oh my God.
It's just too much to pay attention to, and the magic is gone. Because, I remember when the prequel trilogy came out, and for those of us who grew up with Star Wars, it was like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for bringing this back. And then those were what they were. And ever since then, it's just been, I don't know, a lot of disappointments.
Yeah, there's been like 2 or 3 good ones.
Yeah. Rogue One. Yeah. So anyway, my fourth Rewindy is going to whomever is responsible for not giving us just a cavalcade of comic book and Star Wars movies in 2023. Thank you. You're doing great work.
Thank you to COVID and the strikes.
The strikes, yes.
Okay, the next award that I'm handing out is for the Box Office Botch of the Year. So Hollywood has forgotten how to run a proper movie business. We all know that. And there are a lot of examples of it every year. But this year, the Box Office Botch of the Year goes to Warner Brothers for Juror Number 2.
Ooh, interesting. Now, I have not seen Juror Number 2, but I've heard some interesting things.
Well, this is part of the problem. It's a movie I haven't seen either.
Yeah.
This is Clint Eastwood's probably his last movie. He's 94 years old.
He's so old.
I don't think he's necessarily officially said this is it, but he's basically said this is probably it.
Yeah.
But he's Clint Eastwood. He has a little bit of a fan base. It's his last movie. And it started to get some buzz. You heard some good things. I heard some good things. A lot of people heard some good things. And it was playing in a couple of markets, a few theaters around the country, and started selling some tickets in whatever theaters it was in. And Warner Brothers was like, yeah, it's starting to make some money. Maybe we're going to do the traditional, expanded release. We'll start putting it in more theaters now that people are talking about it. And then they just didn't do that. They just didn't. It never played more than a couple dozen theaters. And they just never gave it a release.
Wow.
And they were just like, well, fuck it. And they just didn't do it. And so by now, when this episode comes out or when this show gets aired, it will be on streaming already.
Yeah.
It went to pay-per-view, and actually I think it was kind of a hit on pay-per-view
because people were like, I couldn't find this in theater
because people I heard good things. And so I think this is just kind of an instance of of Hollywood not knowing how to run a fucking business and not giving people a reason to go to the theater.
Well, I'm surprised that you didn't award this to Kevin Costner and whatever studio is responsible for his Horizon experiment.
Well, no, that was in a bunch of theaters. Nobody went.
And nobody went, and I think that they've decided not to release the sequels, which are already shot and done.
Yeah,
or at least in theaters.
That was just like, hey, we put it out, and audiences didn't come.
Yeah,
This was like people were like hearing about the movie.
Yeah,
and it was like, well, it's not playing in your city. Like you can watch it on HBO in like 3 months or a month or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. I think that's the reason that people are. I mean, we've talked about this. The reason that people aren't going into the theaters is like, well, I know that it's going to be out on some streaming service in 3 weeks. So if I can't find it, I'm not going to. Well, I'm not even going to try too hard to go and track it down.
Right.
And yeah, it's amazing to me that at 94, Clint Eastwood is still making relevant movies. You said that he has a fan base. I'm curious. Do you think he does? Do you think there are people that are like, oh, well, there's a Clint Eastwood movie coming out. I'm going to go see that.
Yeah, people like our parents' age. Like, I'm not saying that like it's a big fan base.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a little bit of a fan base for Clint Eastwood.
Okay. Well, I'm going to see Juror number 2. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a botched plan as it relates to getting this in front of people.
Yeah, so Warner Brothers really botched this up.
So are we giving them an award for botching this and saying, why don't you botch something else?
Well, the Rewindy isn't necessarily a positive award.
It does
put it that way.
Yeah. It's acknowledging things that happened, and sometimes they aren't good.
Yeah, so the 2024 box office botch of the year goes to Warner Brothers for Juror number 2.
All right. Job done, Warner Brothers.
Yes, they did something.
All right, well, with my fifth Rewindy, I'm going to acknowledge something that we talk about on the regular, on the podcast.
Popcorn?
No. We've already talked about popcorn. They got the first Rewindy. This is a Rewindy for taglines. So we've gotten into the habit, as we should, of grading taglines.
Yes.
And
because we love taglines.
We love taglines. We love them when they're good. They're very often bad.
Taglines are kind of just the essence of storytelling, right?
Yeah. It's the elevator pitch for audiences.
Yeah, like here's especially because to me, I always envision the tagline on a poster.
Yeah.
Here's the picture of the movie. Here's the tagline. If you can't figure out what's going on from those two things, you fucked up.
Yes. So I've selected 5 releases from 2024 with acceptable taglines. I'm not even going to say these are great. These are just the better taglines of the year.
Wow.
And I feel like it's our job, especially in a venue like this with all of these high-profile movie people around us.
Our customers.
Yeah, our customers, stars, whomever. To
all of Hollywood and our customers.
Right. I feel like it's our job to acknowledge.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
Yeah, good job, everybody. We got to acknowledge when movies get it right. Mm-hmm. And like I said, these are not A+ taglines, but they're the ones that rose to the top.
Okay.
All right. So, in no particular order, we have Quiet Place Day 1 with the tagline, "Hear How It All Began." Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Hitman. He's not a killer, but he can pretend.
I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah. Saturday Night. This is the movie that chronicled the first episode of Saturday Night Live. The revolution begins at 11:30.
Love it.
Yeah. Terrific tagline.
Yeah.
Right? Terrifier 3, which I did not see yet. I do know that it has a Christmas theme to it.
Really?
Yeah. This is the tagline for Terrifier 3. You better not shout. You better not cry.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then finally, Roadhouse.
Oh.
Take It Outside.
That's decent.
That's decent. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah. So those are the 5 movies that stood out to me as having better than average taglines. Some of them quite good.
Yeah.
Some of them all right, but not bad. And yeah, I think it's just going to be our job each year to find a reason.
Pick out the best taglines.
Figure out the good ones. So those are the taglines. My fifth rewindy goes to those 5 movies for not shitting the bed on the tagline.
Good to decent taglines.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now. And the next rewindy I'm handing out is for Keeping It Simple.
Okay.
So one of the types of movies that I always appreciate is when they do one thing well and don't complicate the movie. This year, the rewindy for Keeping It Simple goes to Azrael. You look like you haven't heard of this movie.
I have not.
I think I might have told you about it before. It stars Samara Weaving as a member of a society that believes that speaking is a sin. And so nobody talks in her like clan or whatever.
I remember the pitch, and I just couldn't remember the name.
And it's filled with Satan zombies.
Oh, nice.
And it's very bloody. There's lots of action, lots of gore. There's some like religious connotations going on. There's a lot of stuff happening, but there's almost no dialogue whatsoever. Almost nobody speaks. There's a couple of scenes where maybe there's a few words, and the movie barely tries to explain what's going on. It's basically just she's trying to get away from these things. There's also some bad people doing some bad shit. And it's kind of just like a chase movie in a way.
Yeah.
In this post-apocalyptic Satan zombie world.
Now, I have to ask.
Yes.
This is an award for keeping it simple. Mm-hmm. If I were introduced to Satan zombies in a movie, I'd have a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if this movie tries to explain them or is just like, nope, Satan zombies, take it and run away from them. You don't need to know more.
It doesn't tell you what's happening, really.
Okay.
But like it's obvious like these are creatures you need to get the fuck away from.
Yeah.
And there's people that she knows that there's no speaking amongst them, but you know what their relationships are and stuff. But it's just like, get the fuck away from these things.
Yeah.
Stay away from these people.
Gotcha.
And keep yourself safe. That's the movie.
That's the movie. That's all right. That's simple. I get it.
And it's 86 minutes long.
Why am I not surprised at a runtime?
It gets in, it gets out.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I really enjoyed it. I think it's a super fun movie that you could think about the plot. You could think about the world.
Yeah.
You could do your own world building in your head.
Uh-huh.
But what this movie is interested in doing is showing you a bunch of gory violence, some action, and just the world as it is.
Now, you're describing something that I love when movies do, which is not a lot of exposition, not a lot of background on how we got here. It's just like, nope, this is the world now, and we're gonna follow some people that are living in it.
Yes,
and
it's
that's
explanation
great.
How we got here.
Yes, is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I'm excited.
Yes, we're just in this world. We wake up and no one's speaking because no one's allowed to talk, right? And so and then we can see like these people are in charge because of the way they're acting, and these people are evil, and those are definitely not humans.
Yeah.
They're Satan zombies. I guess I just assume Satan's involved. I think maybe because I'm a huge Satan fan.
Oh,
I'm not exactly sure it's Satan. There's definitely demons of some sort.
Right. I thought that perhaps somebody in the film had gotten real close to somebody that they were running away from these things with and said, watch out for the Satan zombies.
Yeah, there's
that they're actually like Satan zombies.
Yeah, there's like goat babies and stuff. And like that just to me says Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like to me, they're Satan zombies.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 2024 Rewindy for Keeping It Simple goes to Azrael.
Well, bravo, Azrael. You've got my attention. I'm gonna watch this movie now. We've spent a decent amount of time during this award show talking about the horror genre.
That is true.
We're not going to stop.
We're not going to stop.
We've got one more. I've actually got 2 more rewindies. I think you do too. Maybe one. I can't remember. But still a trophy left.
Yes.
And I am going to give it to a specific film that got my attention and is deserving of a rewindy. I I thought about saving this for a future theme, but I'd rather just acknowledge that it was a great addition to this year's roster of films. And the movie that I'm talking about is Heretic.
Oh.
So this is this got a limited release, and it wasn't in theaters very long, but it starred Hugh Grant as somebody who welcomes two girls into his home who are going from door to door trying to introduce people to Mormonism. So they belong to the Church of Latter-day Saints, and, they're peddling their wares. And he, in a very friendly fashion, invites them in to hear their pitch. And very quickly, you start to sense that something's wrong. He's got something up his sleeve, and sure enough, he does. And this movie, I think, has a really interesting opening act, a phenomenal opening act. And you get to hear Hugh Grant monologuing about his perspective on religion. I want to encourage people to see this and not reveal too much, but I'll say just a couple things to pique curiosity. One, you get a brief history of Monopoly in Hugh Grant's session in responding to these girls. You also get a comparison of Jar Jar Binks to Christ. Or I guess it's the other way around. Christ to Jar Jar Binks.
Okay.
Which, I mean, who had that on their bingo card for 2024? Hugh Grant is great as a villain, and it's just nice to see him doing not Bridget Jones' Diary-esque roles. So I enjoyed him a lot in this. I thought that it was just another interesting horror movie from this year, and I want to give it its own Rewindy for just being different and a very fun watch.
You're giving it the award for a Hugh Grant movie of the year?
I don't know that he has another one. Maybe he does, but yeah, he deserves it. He was good in this.
This is definitely on my watch list, but I have not gotten to it yet.
It's brisk.
Yeah.
I think you're going to like it. I don't know that the second and third acts quite live up to the first. In fact, I don't think they do. But yeah, it's still worth the price of admission.
I'm definitely going to check it out then.
So yes, my second to last Rewindy of 2024 goes to Heretic for just being bold and different.
Great choice. Great choice. We're really cooking now. The next Rewindy is for the mini trend that I could do without.
Oh.
Every so often, an idea pops up in different movies in the same year, by complete coincidence, presumably.
Yeah.
The 2024 mini trend I could do without is also related to the horror genre.
Okay.
It's the last time, I promise. But
yeah.
The trend is pregnancies in evil religious settings.
Oh, man. No. Let's get more of this.
I already mentioned Azrael has like a demon baby.
Right.
It's not quite the same thing as the other movies I'm talking about. The other one being Immaculate and then The First Omen.
Yes.
Which came out like weeks apart, I think, this fall. Yeah. And they both featured women getting pregnant in some sort of Catholic institutions. Right. And through not like entirely human forces and violent circumstances.
This is 2024's parallel to Deep Impact and Armageddon coming out within like close proximity of each other.
I actually like both. I like both of these movies. I like all the movies we're talking about. I like these movies. But as far as this trope goes, it's time to move on. I'm done with it.
No, I have to dive into this a little bit because I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you just saying we don't need to see young women giving birth to demonic creatures? Or are you saying we don't need to depict that birthing the way it happens in these movies?
I think I might be saying both. I think it's just like, I don't know, it's really upsetting to see, like, especially First Omen has like a bunch of like horrible things happening to pregnant women and stuff. Like, even if it's like just referred to, it's just like, what, why are we doing this? And then there's like some other horrible things, and there's like a horrible depiction of a birth of a demon, and like there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot, and then like yes, okay, you can do that in a movie. And like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be depicting these things. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm done with it. It's a mini trend that like, I don't think we need anymore.
Interesting. Now, I am on the other side of the fence here. Not because I want more graphic demonic births.
Yeah.
But I feel like First Omen, especially, more so for me than Immaculate, is doing exactly what I'm appreciating with my Rewindy to the horror genre,
Yes.
which is like not afraid to get bold and graphic and unexpected.
Yes.
I mean, we get literally a demon arm extending out from a vagina in
Yes.
the First Omen. And
A POV shot.
yeah, I'm here for it.
Again, like, I'm not trying to say... Yeah, I'm just saying I feel like we did it. We did it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, box check.
We did it. Yeah, like I don't know what else you can do with this trope that isn't like too far.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we did it with, especially with these two movies.
Yeah.
We did all we can do.
We've gotten quite graphic.
Yes. So
Okay, I get it.
so the 2024 Rewindy for the mini trend I could do without goes to evil, violent, religious pregnancies.
All right. Well, hopefully we don't get any of those next year. Hopefully we still get a bunch of horror movies, but maybe they're doing something different.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Try something new.
All right. I'm tracking. All right. I've got one Rewindy left, Rob.
Exciting.
And this again acknowledges something that we've talked a fair amount about on the podcast. And my final Rewindy is one that I'm awarding to you.
Oh.
Yeah, this is your own
It's about
Rewindy.
goddamn time.
Yeah. Well, funny you put it that way because this is in reference to runtimes.
Ooh.
And so
I feel attacked.
yeah. So here's my point of view. I think you have been too critical of movies that extend beyond the 80-some minute range. And so it dawned on me that you deserve your own Rewindy as a
Thank you.
reminder to perhaps cut some slack to those films that are a little longer than your ideal length. And I thought of this when you made mention of the runtime for The Substance, which
Yeah.
you said was too long.
It's too long.
And
It's too long.
and I think you had said movies should not be 2 hours.
Well, they should generally be 2 hours or less.
2 hours or
That's
less,
my
yeah.
philosophy.
Yeah. Now, I know that there are going to be countless occasions in 2025 where you're going to be sitting at home, you're going to be watching a movie, and it's going to be good. And you're going to be engaged and liking what's going on. And then there's going to be a little tap on your shoulder from little runtime Rob, who says, well, we're enjoying this, but look at the time. Look how long this is going. And what I'd like you to do is look beyond runtime Rob and see this Rewindy sitting on your shelf and think, I'm going to ignore him and just embrace what's happening and leave open the opportunity for a movie to be great in spite of its runtime.
I will say in my defense that I am open to that. I
Okay.
am definitely open to that.
Yeah.
I think looking back on this past year when I've really like made this a focus of mine.
Yeah.
I think our over 170 minutes episode broke me on some level. I think that's where I snapped. Mm-hmm. And but I also think I'm a natural editor. And I'm like, yeah, you could take this out. Like anytime I'm reading stuff or like even like a newspaper article, I'm like, we didn't need this paragraph. You could take this out.
Yeah.
And so like I think I'm just a natural. I naturally want things to be brief and
Cut to the chase.
cut to the chase, or like I want things to serve a purpose. And I think in this era of streaming and Marvel movies and IP stuff, I think we waste a lot of time doing things in movies that we don't need to do. I think a lot of movies are over 2 hours that like just frankly don't need to be. And
Okay.
that's where I come down. I don't think there's plenty of movies that are 2.5, 3 hours long. Well, maybe not 3, but 2.5 hours long, or close. Somewhere in between 2.5 and 3 that I think deserve it. That I think are good movies and should be that long. And
Right.
I don't think are too long. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of like movies that come out on Netflix. It's like, why is Netflix putting out a 2 hour and 35-minute version of like this movie?
Yeah, like
you know?
Extraction or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
like, these kinds of movies should be 90 to 105 minutes. And there's a lot of movies that fit in that range. Like, this should be 90 to 105, and it's like somehow it's 128 minutes.
Yeah, I understand your perspective. I'm glad you were able to elaborate. I'm still presenting you this award.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
And yeah, the reason that it's something that I find myself thinking about often is because there are countless films where they run long, and I find myself not annoyed by it because I just want to spend more time with these characters. I want to live in the world that they're in. I think of a lot of Richard Linklater movies in that way, especially the Before series, where it's just like, these people could talk for fucking 5 hours, and I'm happy to just sit with them and listen.
But isn't part of the greatness of a movie like Dazed and Confused the fact that it's 100 minutes long, which is like the perfect length for a movie, and you could watch it 1,000 times in a lifetime and never get tired of it.
That's interesting. I did not realize it was 100 minutes. It runs longer than that in my head.
Because it's infinite in time because it's so good. But like the actual time of the movie is only 100 minutes.
That's impressive.
I mean, one of the Before movies is like 82 minutes.
Oh yeah,
the best one, the middle one.
Yeah, it was on our under 88 minute 85 minute episode. Yeah, no, you're right. And I'm as much of a fan of a short film as you are. However, I think that there are some that might get knocked for being a little long, and perhaps it's not so bad. The substance.
Point taken. Point taken. That one I very much disagree.
Yeah. I hear you. So this is yours. You do what you want with it.
Okay. I'm gonna put it up on the shelf when we get back to the store.
Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, the next Rewindy, and actually our last of the evening, celebrates excellence and respect for my time. And that's why it's I'm giving away the award for Runtime of the Year. And this is building off the last one, obviously. And maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll just hand this award that I got right back over to this movie. I only saw one 2024 movie that would qualify for our under 85 minutes episode.
Okay.
And the movie that wins the Rewindy for Runtime of the Year is Ethan Cohen's Drive Away Dolls.
Really?
Clocking in at 84 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Not a movie that I really liked that much, to be honest.
Okay.
And it had some things that I found kind of interesting. And it was by a director who I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. But it wasn't like something that I really was into. But with an 84-minute runtime, that increases the chances exponentially that I'm going to go back and give it another chance.
Okay. I've got some things to say. You acknowledged that this was not really doing there were some interesting things that not having seen it, I can't speak to this, but I can't help but to wonder, were there maybe some underdeveloped themes in this movie, or
No.
Okay, nothing nothing that maybe deserved more time in order for you to.
I'm not sure I was on the same wavelength, like the way the characters were talking and stuff.
Gotcha.
It was more like that. It was more like, I'm not really like into like the way that this character expresses herself in the world.
Yeah.
But because I know that it's Ethan Cohen, who, the Coen brothers movies, if nothing else, they're idiosyncratic and sometimes take a few cracks before you understand, like, really, before you get the rhythm of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, because of this movie's short runtime, there's a way more of a chance I could be like, I'll give that another shot. Like maybe there's something else going on there that like I wasn't like really vibing with, that maybe the next time I watch it, I will.
Now, you said this was Ethan Coen. I can't help but to wonder if perhaps they were able to shave some minutes off the runtime by cutting a brother from the movie making process. Was Joel Coen involved at all? Was he like did he get a writer credit or anything? Or
no, they split up for a little bit to make a couple separate projects.
Okay.
I've heard rumors that they're like coming back together. I think they were just like, let's try something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And Joel, I think, made a Shakespeare movie with his wife, like a really serious like Shakespeare adaptation. And then Ethan Coen went off and made this like madcap lesbian wackadoodle comedy. And so, like, I think, like, just...
Is that what this is?
That's what this is.
Oh, okay.
And so I think, like, you can kind of see, like, how their sensibilities, when they come together, you can see, like, how it makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just kind of like a wacky road movie that is almost like a 90s independent comedy. It's closer to, like, Raising Arizona than it is a lot of other stuff that the Coen brothers made. And actually, Raising Arizona is a movie, again, like... I don't really get. Like, it's one of those movies like everybody loves, and I'm like, I don't think I've really like cracked it yet.
No, I haven't.
And so, short runtime, 84 minutes. Yeah, I'll go back. I'll give it another chance.
Interesting. So you're saying 84 minutes, you're going to give it another chance, and not 84 minutes. I'm glad you didn't waste more of my time because I didn't love this. Okay, all right.
But like, if this movie was 2 hours and 10 minutes.
You'd be mad.
I'd be pissed. I'd be like, why are you making this stupid 90s independent road comedy that's 2 hours and 10 minutes?
I see.
I'd be like, no, I'm never watching this again.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, the winner of the Rewindy for the runtime of the year goes to Drive Away Dolls.
Good job, Drive Away Dolls, for being efficient with your use of time.
And that was the last award that we had up here, so I guess that means we've reached the end of the 2024 Rewindies.
It's been such a wonderful evening. But now the event staff is flicking the lights on and off, so I think that means we should be leaving soon.
Plus, I saw your car being towed out front.
Well, thank you all for being here. Don't forget to check out our regular episodes every other Thursday.
Visit us online at rewindvideopod.com and please be kind, recommend.
And hail Satan!